Alhamdulillah wahdah, wassalatu wassalamu ala man la nabiyya ba'dah, amma ba'd. With the text Nur Ul Idaah of Imam Shrumbulali, we will be covering two important aspects today. One is the ruling of well. Well, you may argue that although it's in the text and that's why we're going through it, what's the advantage? What is the need in the current time of knowing the ruling about well? Well, you may say that we don't use wells these days, but even today, in certain parts of the world, it is used. The other important aspect of this is that knowledge must be kept intact and protected. We don't know when, again in future, we live in a situation where there was no water and then we're digging the wells again. Despite all the advancement, things can change again. So the knowledge of certain facts, especially whatever is put in the book by this pious person in his time, is inshallah ta'ala blessed. Anyway, so if well become impure, then what? So all the water is to be withdrawn from a small well if an impurity falls in it. And that could be even a drop of water. And what is small in Sharia definition? Small is 10 by 10 cubic meter. So 10 this side and 10 that side, anything. So all the wells are smaller than this. So every well would become impure if there was a drop of urine, a drop of blood. You cut yourself accidentally, you cause the blood to drop in it. All the water is impure now. You have to draw all of that out. Now it is difficult, isn't it? What is accepted, what is allowed, what is excused is few, dropping of goats and camels. Like, these animals, they used to live a lot in and around the Arabian desert. It is almost impossible to save your well from them because they come and do the water pulling and drawing to help you, and wind would blow, and every so often there'll be few small dropping of these animals falling in that. So Sharia has given leeway in that situation because there are only few and they tend to be solid and you can take it out without much trouble. Obviously, if there's a lot of that, then that is not excuse. If a pig fell in the well, you have to draw all the water out. We come to that, how and what. Likewise, even if it comes out alive, which hinting to the point, other animals, if they go in the well and come out alive, the water doesn't get impure. With exception of few things, we come to that in a second. For example, a dog, a sheep, human, they die in the well. Then all of the water to be withdrawn. If they come out alive, water remains okay, provided they did not have any impurity on their body. So men fell in accidentally, women fell in accidentally, but they were impure. They were not pure, means they either were on their special days, women, or the men were sexually defiled, haven't taken their shower yet, and accidentally was about to take shower. That's why he was trying to draw water, but water drawn him in. And this person, when it went in, obviously, he was defiled, so he would cause the water to be impure. So all the water will become impure. Otherwise, gently, you just went in and accidentally slipped and then come out of it alive, not a problem. That water remains okay. Including dog. Now, the saliva would be an issue. We'll come to that in a minute. So all the water is to be drawn. And what is all the water? We'll come to that in a minute. If animal dies in it and it gets bloated, it gets opened up, it gets ruptured, then the filth of the body has come out, all the water become impure in the well. It has to be, then all the water needs to be pulled out, drawn out. It is not possible to, if it is not possible to draw all the water because there's constant water coming out, then it is necessary to actually take 200 average size bucket, 200 of average size bucket to be drawn out. Then it will be okay. That's because the water keeps coming in. It's ongoing, filling in from the other end. The certain well are like that. Certain well, you can draw it and it becomes zero, no water. We had a well in our house, and that was, you can take everything out and be done. It would take another day before the water rises up again. It's like in a small seepage of water. So sometimes it's too much of a flood coming out. As you take out, it will just be filled from the other end straight away. In that situation, you have to take 200 buckets out if you cannot empty it. You understand that? Yes? If a chicken, cat, something of a like this size dies in the water, then you have to draw about 40 buckets. 40 buckets. It's smaller than that. A rat, something of that size, 20 buckets. Okay. Now, so the question would arise, what about the bucket itself? Because that water which is impure, you're taking the impure water out with the bucket, and the rope is getting wet every time. How to purify, and the wall of the well, don't worry. As long as you've taken that 50 or 20 or 40 buckets out, it's done automatically. You don't need to worry about that. You don't have to wash it. So the summary is, if animal dies in the well and hasn't decayed yet, that's an important point. If it decayed, then you have to take everything out. If it hasn't decayed, it hasn't swollen, then a small, like mouse size, 20 buckets would suffice. Medium, pigeon size, 40 buckets would be enough. Larger than that, like sheep, have to take everything out, or any of that, any animal died and swollen and got ruptured, like it disintegrated inside. It's been there for some days. 200 buckets if you cannot take the whole of the water out. Is that clear? Any question on that? Yes? Very easy, straightforward, I hope.
What's the rationale between 200 buckets, 300 buckets?
Exactly. Very good question. So where did we get that from? This was just scholarly work, where they found those wells in the time of Sahaba and after that, Imam's time, first generation, second generation Muslims. So what they did, they took a sample of different wells. So in Baghdad mainly, in Kufa, in Medina, and they started drawing the water. And they counted how many on average would you be able to empty it. So there's about 200. It was about 200 buckets, roughly, thereabout, one or two here and there. So on average, it was 200 buckets. If you take it out, it will be empty. So the well that you cannot empty, they say, okay, which means that the water that was impure was 200 buckets worth. If you take it out, then the new water coming in, that's not impure anyway. It is becoming impure now, but it is that you have managed to take the impure water out by doing so. And it keeps filling up from the other end, obviously, slowly and slowly. So once you've taken all the impurity out, next filling one would be the clean and nicer one. This is just a work done on that premise because there's no other way of knowing. Remember that impurity, you cannot judge. You cannot see. It's a small water, a drop of blood. How would you know? You can't take it out. It's just got mixed up. And that's where the trouble is. And based on the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if the water is larger, then it does not hold any impurity. If it's less than that, then it becomes impure. So that is a principle from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And large and small, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam described, well, qullatayn, and those sort of hadith. And so it is in Hanafi school considered to be, as I said, 10 by 10 cubic meters. So anything of that level is more or big water, large water. Anything less than that is a small water. So small water would be impurified, large wouldn't be. So that is why it is calculated as such. As I said, it's small, if there's small amount of few droppings here and there, dung of animals, day-to-day animal, the one that you cannot. But nowadays, we know the well are much more easily catered for and covered because you have the small wall around it, you cover it with something on top of that. So it is not as difficult these days. Maybe in desert, it's still the problem because the wind gusts flowing this way and that way, this wind is blowing this way and that way. You can't control, it's just literally lifting the dung and then throwing in it, and then it's very difficult. en route. Desert, which is not dwell upon, where the people are not living, obviously. So en route, well, what would you do? So that becomes a trouble, isn't it? So Sharia would take care of everyone and anyone, not just, oh, where is the well in our life? We don't see well. Yeah, but it's not just for you. Sharia doesn't come only for red rich people. It's the whole world, isn't it? Likewise, the pigeons and the birds, they are fine. They're not impure anyway. It doesn't matter. Likewise, the halal bird. Halal birds are perfectly fine. Their droppings are not impure. Obviously, you don't want to have them all the time. You just clear it, but it would not be impure. What about the droppings of haram birds? The crow, the hawks, owl. So there's difference of opinion, but inshallah ta'ala, safer you can consume it. It's fine. But there's another implication that will come in a minute. Now, the animal that does not have any blood flowing in them, frog, fish, any other, like mosquito, wasp, like that, they're pure, they're fine. Them dying inside the wall, not a problem. But there are many who do. In every so often you see one or two here and there. So alhamdulillah, Sharia has given ease about that. Imam Shafi'i considered that to be causing the water to be polluted. No, not Imam Abu Hanifa or other Imams. Imam Shafi'i considered even those frogs and fish, if they're there, then if they die, then that causes trouble as well to them. Human going in and coming out, we already mentioned. Likewise, sheep, halal animal going in and coming out, not a problem, as long as they didn't have any impurity on their body. Now, what about saliva? Saliva would again go against, in keeping with this animal, whether the saliva of that animal is pure or not. So, for example, dog saliva is not pure. Animal which is halal, like sheep's saliva is fine, not a problem. So if animal went in with their saliva, the head, what it means is that they were drowned. Drowned in a sense, they were just dipped inside, rather than just like this, the head was out, okay. But if the dog went in, and then it just fell inside, and its head was inside as well, so the saliva gone inside, so then you have to purify again. It becomes like impurity gone inside. Okay. Saliva of the dog, then you have to assess the water according to the dog's, which would make it impure. The saliva is impure according to Hanafi school. In Maliki school, it is not impure, the saliva of dog. But they should clean the pot which the dog has used for Shari'i reason, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam commanded so, not that it would impurify it. Now, a dead animal is found, and you do not know when this dead animal actually, when did that animal fell in it? When did that animal fall in it? How long ago was that? So if you know it was a day or 3 days or however long, you don't know. If you don't know, if you know that, like just now, we saw falling and then you're trying to retrieve, but you know that it just died and then you took it out. So you know. It happened right in front of you. It was your own pet animal or whatever. But if you didn't know, then depending on whether the animal got swollen and ruptured, opened up, or it stayed intact, that would dictate. If the animal stayed intact, then it is 1 day, considered 1 day, 24 hours. If it was swollen and ruptured, then 3 days. What is the significance of that? You have to repeat the prayers. You use the same water from the well, only later on you found, oh my goodness, the third person or fifth person or whoever, you just draw water, you found a dead chicken inside, a pigeon inside, that just came in your bucket. Oh, because you never saw inside. What do I do? Is it ruptured? No, it looks intact, completely sound, not swollen. Okay, I have been praying with this water since yesterday. I've made wudu 5 times. So all the 5 prayers that I've done just before this prayer, I have to make up for that. My last 5 prayers are invalid because I did wudu with the water with the animal, because we don't know how long. So you just get that based on, because normally they say if it's fully swollen and ruptured, it takes 3 days, roughly, in that desert area. Again, the fiqh would come with this understanding. So you could imagine how much work scholars have done in the past to identify, not that they knew it. In the modern time, I think it's easier to find out specifically about each animal, but the weather condition is different. We have got much more colder water. They would have like desert area. What sort of animal is that? How unwell, sick he was. So that would dictate how quickly he would get swollen up. So anyway, so the fuqaha of that time, they worked it out and they said, if the animal comes out intact, like the animal is dead, yet it is not swollen, then 24-hour worth of prayer should be repeated. And if it's swollen, ruptured, then 3 days worth of prayers are to be repeated. 3 days and 3 nights, same. The 15 prayers. So be careful when you do wudu from a well. Is that it? Yes.
Question about you mentioned that if a human fell in the water and he was in a status where he needed to have ghusl, the water becomes impure. What's the reason for that? Because at the moment, is it all because he doesn't have any physical impurity? And we know that normally the water that we use for ghusl, that does not become impure normally, that becomes just normal, which is still pure,
because,
right?
Yes, yeah, that is because it's when istinja it would come. When you have sexual defilement, the private part must be washed properly. If you have done that, if he was washed properly and has not got any impurity on his body, that would have been fine. But the problem is, if he's sexually defiled, you don't know whether he has done it or not. Unless he tells you, oh, actually, I have washed myself properly. The question is, why then you did not do ghusl if you had enough water to do that? You understand? So this is on that premise. The person who would have fallen in accidentally or he was actually going to take water to do ghusl. That's more likely scenario. Or he's just drawing water for his personal use. So he hasn't even washed himself.
It's because of the impurity then. Yeah.
There would be some impurities, implied that there would be some impurity on his body. And he can't get it out on its own. Yes, roughly, the rest of the body is fine, but that private part and the area around it, you can't purify without water. Istinja. So istinja is cleaning the private part. That's where this issue would come. After one has defecated or urinated. So one has to have washing or cleaning through stones or tissue paper. It is compulsory. It is compulsory to remove those last drops or last, material from the body. Istinja. So it is sunnah to perform istinja from any najasa that has come out of the body, but it hasn't spread out of the orifice. Orifice being the opening. So the opening, if you urinated and there's no soiling around it, then it is sunnah. If you have soiled it, so the small baby, they would normally do, boys especially, they would just do urine, like ejecting out without having any soiling around. They don't dribble afterwards. They tend to not, because their muscles are young and they're strong in that. Elderly, the older you get, the stream gets weaker and weaker. Sometimes, or for women, it is like literally soiling everything. For men in old age, it soils as well. So if it is straight out and no area around the orifice is affected, then you do not need to do the istinja. It's sunnah now. You get the reward of doing the istinja though. You'll be rewarded for performing istinja with a stone or with water, with tissue paper as a substitute, all fine. But if it has gone past that orifice, past that opening, exit point, around, but it is not yet 50p coin size, smaller than that area is affected, then it's wajib. And for practical purpose, it must be cleansed. And anything bigger than that, 50p area, larger than that, then it is fard to wash that area. We'll come to that in a minute. So a dirham is roughly about 50p coin. So Istinja is sunnah, when the filth did not exceed the orifice, the makhraj. It is wajib if it did, but it is still less than the 50 p-coin area, a dirham. And it is fard if it has gone further than that. Okay, so istibra, there's a concept called istibra. Istibra means to make something bari of something. So you're making, ensure that there's no drop left in the male private part. The problem with male is, as they grow older, not when they're young, it's okay. As they start growing old, as they start aging, so remember, so this is bladder. So our kidneys, whatever we drink goes in the stomach. From there it gets absorbed and it goes to the kidneys. The kidneys has to flush it. Kidney would remove the waste products with water and would reabsorb the good stuff, which is water, plus some salts and solutes, which is needed for the body. So urea would go out, creatinine would go out, the bad stuff would go out. And that would become with water, urine. So urine constituents are completely like, whatever you see is all filthy stuff. The good stuff would come this way. Like kidney would refilter and get it back in the system. Through the amazing filtering system of kidney, only the bad products would go out with water and that becomes urine. Now, once both kidneys have done their job, it trickles drop by drop, come into this tube called urinary, these calyceal system, vesicles, and then it comes into this bladder. There's a small bag, small sac. It gets filled. It's collapsed sitting like this, and you have a drop until it becomes swollen or full. Once it's full like this, it sends the signal to the spine, which takes it to the brain and saying, open the door, I'm full. Now this is the bladder. At the end of the bladder, there's a tube that comes out. There's what we call a sphincter. A sphincter is a tight muscle band. So this bladder at the end has tight muscle band. Obviously, it's not huge, it's a small area. So that tight muscle. And there's one at the end of that. So this is internal, which is inside, and this is external. Two doors, two gates. When this is filled, this one opens up with the flooding. Urine is built up here, signals already been sent, pressurizing this involuntary inside a sphincter, which is already opened up, and you feel like I need to pee, like this is what you do. The outside one is in your control. You can hold it. But how long would you, if the flood is coming from behind? You can only hold for that longer period. Once you've opened it up, it will just gush out completely. Now the trouble is, for men, there's angle. There's a bladder sitting there, and there's a prostate gland which holds this tube a little like this. It goes out a little like this. This angle would cause the water, urine in this case, slowly to trickle out. So the initial flow would cause everything out. But that small bit, last few bits, coming out on this urethra, we call it, urethra, which is the tube going from inside, coming out in the male private part to the end. This part, it is opened up from here. The last few drops are traveling slowly, because there's no more pressure, all been emptied. This drop coming in this tube to the out, that may be one drop, could be two drops. Normally it is 1 to 2 drops, not more than that. As you grow even older, it will be 3, 4, 5 drops maybe. That needs to be cleansed. It must come out from the other end. Otherwise, what would happen? Since the inside one would be closed, it would just come out naturally and soil your clothes. Drop, even one drop out of that tip would nullify your wudu, would make you impure. So you have to do this istibra, making sure that I have given enough time to let that drop out. This is all individually tailored, personal experience. What would cause my last drop to come out? So in practice, my experience of my way is, I would just have to come out of the toilet, walk little bit from, from this much, from here to there, and then come back. Then I'm done. Then you squeeze out the last drop, wash it, you're sorted. If you have not done that, then you have not done istibra. That drop would come out at some point. It would nullify your wudu. It would nullify your prayer. Okay. So method of ensuring complete emptying of the passage. Ladder is empty. That's closed now. Whatever is remain on the line. Last few, the last few cars, when you have a signal there, they say, wait when the signal is red here. And oncoming cars going. When it's your turn, the signal is now red, but you say, I can still make it. So that's the one. That needs to, and that is why the other side would have a delay of signal becoming green, because they're sensible enough to know istibra in this case. But they would do the istibra of the last car, because if they did, have you noticed what happened to the normal signal? The minute it gets yellow, and the next, this is going to get red, and that one is going to get green. It happens simultaneously. So if you keep an eye on that signal, after which your signal is going to get green, you see that yellow ember, now it's my turn. It will just be literally within a second like this. But when it's signaled for temporary reason, where the oncoming car would be using the same track, they do not do that. That would be yellow and then green. Before it becomes green, this one would be already red for a few seconds, because they know there'll be few cars still carrying on in that track till they come out of the other side. Does it make sense? That is what istibra is, to ensure that anything in line has already got time to come out before you ignore it and put it back. And then you realize afterwards. Well, you might not even see it. Common sense, easy. I don't think it's difficult to understand. It's only for men. Women do not have that problem because they've got a small urethra. For them, it's only inside and small out. There's no travel time. That's a normal signal. Ours is the special one. So the older you get, you have to practice. You have to understand. How would you do it? I mean, you can do that by coughing. Some people find it easy to just walking, coughing, lying down even. Come and lie in the bed. Let it be relaxed. Let your private part be relaxed. And this is after you've done the initial squeezing and cleaning, and then come out. Wait a second. Maybe just do if you wanted to do your miswak or whatever. Teeth brush, whatever you need to do. Just do something, let it come out naturally. Okay? So having loose clothes, now you would understand why grandfather, those old people in the community, in the family, have loose clothes in the house, their lungi. It is easier. Just go, come out while you're still wearing it and have a bit of walk, and after that go back again. Second trip is for that reason, to make sure the istibra is done. And then you press gently, making sure brisk, whatever it takes. You have to, some people jump up and down. I wouldn't advise that, because if you are in that habit, then you're elderly and you 2 jumps, a 3rd jump on the wall. If you just find yourself cracked your head inside the toilet for doing istibra, that'd be very silly. But don't do that. Simple walking is the easiest bit, or just stand there. Now, it has to be your heart which is contented. You should know that I have done enough. No one else can tell you what that time is, whatever it takes. You should be able to. Yeah, if shaitan continues to, if you are one of those OCD people, which is quite common these days, then don't bother too much. Just do your initial bit and sprinkle some water so you can say, oh, that coldness that I'm feeling is the coolness or whatever I'm feeling, the wetness is to do with my sprinkle of the water. It's not the urine drop. So shaitan cannot then confuse you. That was advice from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The doubt would be sorted out through that. And if you are sure that the urine has come out during the prayer, after the prayer, then you have to go and wash it again and do your prayer again. If you're sure that urine drop has come out. because you didn't do istibra properly. If you did it, that's fine. If you've done your istibra, you can ignore it. Because naturally shouldn't be the case. Yeah, it may be one off here and there. Normally doesn't happen. Anyway, back to istinja. Whatever is the najasa, you have to remove it. Okay. Obviously, if someone has any najasa, this is where the issue is. So if you have been sexually defiled, or if you had wet dream, or if you had been on your special days of menstruation or postnatal bleeding, postnatal means when they've given birth, and then there's constant bleeding for, well, it doesn't have to be constant, but up to 40 days. Then all of that, once you're coming out of it, you have to wash. You have to remove those impurities. It doesn't come off naturally or normally. You have to wash it out. Okay. It is sunnah to do istinja through stone, and the like, which could be tissue paper. But it shouldn't be something which is venerated, respected, honored. That is why normally paper shouldn't be used for it. It's makruh to use paper to do istinja. However, the tissue paper is actually designed for this reason. It's not designed to write on. It is designed for this, and then it's fine. You can use it. However, washing is preferred. There's more reward for that, and it is better. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, actually, when he got this revelation from Quran, فيه رجال يحبون أن يتطهروا والله يحب المطهرين لمسجد أسس على التقوى من أول يوم أحق أن تقوم فيه رجال يحبون أن يتطهروا والله يحب المطهرين. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was invited by some hypocrites who built a mosque, and they wanted Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to lead prayer there or pray there, so that they can use that as the testimony. See, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam performed prayer in this masjid. Now this masjid is very special. You guys come and do it. And then they would use it for their secret meetings against Islam. This was something Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam initially said, I would come on my way back from this particular expedition. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through revelation, told him and informed him about their plot and said, no, you shouldn't. This ayah then confirmed that. لا تقم فيه أبدا. Do not ever go in that masjid. والذين اتخذوا مسجدا ضرارا وكفرا وتفريقا بين المؤمنين وإرصادا لمن حارب الله ورسوله. Do not go in that masjid. Stop Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam from offering any prayer there. And then Allah said, لَمَسْجِدٌ أُسِّسَ عَلَى التَّقْوَى. The masjid which was founded, the foundation was created, made, على التقوى. That is the masjid. That is better place to go and offer. And fihi rijal, and in and around that masjid, the community that live around this masjid, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praised them by saying, there are men who love to be purified. Rijalun yuhibbuna an yatatahharu. Wallahu yuhibbul muttahhirin. And they're very pure, very purified people. And they do that and they love it, and Allah loved them for that reason. But then the Sahaba came. See, this is the attitude of Sahaba. When they find something which Allah loves, or Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would appreciate, they would go and find out what was the reason behind it. So they went to those people and said, what special purification method you use that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praised you? He said, every time you answer the call of nature, you do istinja with stone first and then water. The norm is you just have whatever, one or the other, not both. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was then inquired about it. He said, yes, that's the reason Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praised you for this, because you used it. So that is why, in order to fulfill this beautiful sunnah of those Sahaba and approval from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and their praise from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, use a small tissue. Don't waste a lot of tissue, just only one piece as a sunnah in order to fulfill that, and then water. Some people just do water, which is fine as well. But don't be spendthrift, don't be wasteful, but little bit in order to combine the two. But this is my advice, and this is how I practice. But anyway, You can use tissue paper. You don't have to have a stone. But once in a blue moon, especially if you're traveling, and there is a possibility of using a stone in the lifetime, using a stone is also something to look out for. If there was an opportunity, do it. And then water afterwards. It's the water that you would never feel satisfied with, because we are used to that. But in order to fulfill that sunnah, the feel, okay, how Sahaba did it, how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did it. To use 3 stones, according to the narration, is mustahab, but it's not wajib according to Hanafi school. Some other imams would say you have to have 3 stones minimum. In Hanafi school, you don't have to have 3. If it's 1, that would suffice. Okay, 2, okay, 3, okay. If you need more, then it depends on when you are satisfied and you've cleansed yourself. It's the cleaning which is important rather than the number in Hanafi school. Now, how to do istinja, especially for number 2, like for the stool. So it depends. The fuqaha, see how much detail they would go into in order to make sure that people keep themselves clean. So remember, we are talking not about tissue is very good method. Using tissue is a good method of cleaning. You're using stones. Okay, you've just answered. So one thing was the Sahaba in their time, it was a quite hot weather, desert Arabia, and they would not eat like us, big roughage, big food, big everything, big Mac. Everything has got something in it, like too much. They wouldn't, and 3 times a day. So they would have little meals. They would hardly ever have a very semi-solid type food, so to say. They would defecate relatively solid bits. Okay, and that doesn't soil the area around it too much. So that is why it tends to be even 1 stone is enough. 2 stone is enough. And it doesn't cause much of a trouble. So use those stones. Now, for us, it might be difficult how people defecate these days, but you can still use them. So now, if you use, it depends on the men's testicles. The testicles in the winter month, if it's cold, it will be shrunken. It will be more lifted up. The skin would be more together, which means if you cleanse it whichever way, it is not going to touch your testicles. If you use a stone, even tissue, and you came from behind in front, so the tissue or the stone would have all the remaining filth on it while it's cleaning the bottom, but still getting something on the stone, and on its way coming out front, touching the hanging testicles, the scrotum. It's going to soil the scrotum. So then you will be struggling to clean this skin there, because it's very difficult. You understand that? So that is why fuqaha would say if it is hanging testicles, means in the summer months, try to go from front to back first, like this, and then come back, and then 3rd time in the same direction again. That's just a rationale. It's just a practical thing. You don't have to use this. It's not further wajib. It is just mustahab. It is a better way of doing it. What you are responsible for is cleaning there and not soiling any other part of the body. Understand that? Whatever it takes. Obviously, with water, will be all done, sorted out. If it's not hanging, you can do whichever way, front to back. For female, again, there's no problem with that. There's always from the front to back. For female, there's only one way. Why? Because the front part is literally next to it, and you will soil it if you just came from behind and use that tissue in front. It will just be whole area gone. So you don't do that. So it's a little bit tricky, obviously, but be careful. And then obviously for water, you just use the middle finger, minimum 2 finger or 3 fingers. Not more than that. Don't use whole hand, and keep the middle one in the middle, just elevate it a little bit, because this is how the position is, and then cleaning it. Now, you don't want to raise this finger too high. It was say in the books, in particular this book, for women especially, to not do that too high up. Why? Because it can cause certain issues for women, but nothing to worry about. It's more practically whatever is feasible. One shouldn't suffice. With one finger, you won't be able to clean it properly. So smell must be gone. You must eliminate that. Okay. And keep the body relaxed, not tight. If you keep holding it tight, then you have not let any, because remember the sphincter. So anal tone, anal sphincter, the back passage tone, the muscle, this sphincter there as well, tight muscle, it goes in like that. If you do not relax it, it wouldn't open up. If it doesn't open up, the filth which is here on the wall, you have just, it's like, your lips. If you have something here and I close my mouth like this, and then clean, yes, it will be clean from outside. But when I open up, everything will be here. Understand that? Likewise, they will just be all gone in. You have not relaxed it to let the surface clean properly. इससे ज़्यादा demonstration में नहीं कर सकता हूँ. That's the maximum I can explain. It should be very clear, I hope. Picture बना नहीं सकते हैं. Medical उसमें तो बना लिया करते हैं. It's difficult to draw pictures. And then obviously, उसके बाद, once you've completed, you wash your hands as well, to making sure they're all clean. Few more points, satar. It is unlawful. So yes.
Fasting.
Very good point. So that was there as well. During the fasting, you relax it, but don't put your finger too higher. And don't try to hold it like, because there is technically a very small, but very, very, very small. It's not a big risk, but technically is a possibility that you may get water inside. And the rectum, which is connected to anus, that opening, is part of the digestive system, and water can get absorbed through that. But obviously it doesn't happen. Normally it doesn't happen. But if you just keep doing it and with your finger keep moving inside, so don't move your finger inside. That would potentially nullify the wudu or the fasting. So be relaxed about when you're doing wudu, when you're fasting and doing istinja, be a little bit careful as to not get any water inside. Satar is the aura. Aura means the part of the body which should be covered. From men, it is navel to knee. From navel, including knee, everything should be covered, cannot be exposed to anyone. It's haram to show it even to your father, to your mother, to your friend, cousin, sibling, all haram. For those who are pubertal. Obviously, younger than pubertal, they should learn to not do it when they're 5, 6, 7, but it's not haram because they're not mukallaf. And it's quite unfortunate that people do not pay attention to that. They come out in their small shorts inside the house, even the father walking in their shorts inside the house thinking it's all okay. No, it's only okay between husband and wife. No one else can be, expose it to at all. Haram. And it is sinful.
I want to point back.
Say again?
After coming from the nature school, the defining one, washing your hand. I've read the sunnah to rub it on the ground in Prophet times. But nowadays you need to use nail brush because in case
exactly. So during the time of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, obviously there wasn't a provision for soap very easily accessible to people, wasn't, especially on the travel. So to get the smell out mainly, or any small bits out, it would recommended that people should rub it on the ground. Rubbing is like you getting the soap. So nowadays you have your soap that you could use. So if you have used your soap, there's nothing better than that to clean it, getting rid of that. So I know. So normally, if you feel that there are long nails and some stuff has gone inside, and you have to clean it. Yeah, whether it's with the brush or with whatever it takes, making that is part of the reason it should be very short, your nails generally. And it's very, very difficult to clean your nails.
But when you're using water only, then obviously that.
So it should exactly. If it is your satisfaction that you ensure that it is clean. If you have not ensured, then you're in trouble. You've got your filth on your hand. Now, even if you've done your wudu or whatever, you still got filth on that. The wudu, prayer, everything is invalid. It's very, very important that you do not keep long nails. That is against the teaching of Islam. to have it longer.
Bit of smell.
Smell must be out. You must clean it to the whatever it takes to get it out. So ensure that your hands are really clean. Every part of the body is. Showing the awrah is the person would be fasiq. Fasiq is a transgressor, sinful person. His witness is not accepted. He would not be allowed to lead prayer. He would not be allowed to do anything which has got some responsibility of Sharia. He's a bad person in the community. But, you know how common it is for people to just go out and show their satr. It's very bad. Okay, so you should be able to cover yourself and wash yourself. If you needed to be completely exposed, then go to a place where the door is closed, behind the trees or whatever, if you're open. You can't do istinja with a bone that is a food for jinn. They complained to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam about it. And anything which has some, nutrient value for any creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it is, a food for men, food for animal, birds, don't use, like, breadcrumbs, small pieces there that you don't use any of that. Baked bricks, pottery, stuff like that, because they could harm you. It is to save yourself. Your body is you're responsible for as well. Valuable stuff, expensive stuff, don't waste it. Let someone else benefit from it. And likewise, don't use your right hand for istinja. Few adab: enter with the left foot to the toilet. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's refuge in shaitan. And there's a dua: Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-khubuthi wal khaba'ith. Oh Allah, I take refuge in you from the demon, male and female both. And try to sit leaning on the left side. That the squatting position is the best position, medically as well now. Proven. It just defecates, it just causes you to defecate easily. The angle is much more relaxed and better for everything to come out without much trouble. Unfortunately, the toilet that we use nowadays, commode, it doesn't help that. Shouldn't speak in the toilet unless there was a necessity. Now, facing Qibla in the toilet. So your front part is angled straight to the Qibla, or your back towards Qibla. Both are haram in Hanafi school. There's difference of opinion. The Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's hadiths are clear on this, that do not do it. Now, the difference is that in public, like public means open space, or is that within your house confinement? The Hanafis take the view is everywhere. Whether you're in the open desert, the majority of scholars would take that in the open is definitely not permissible. You just, in the house, some scholars allowed the front. You can't do the facing, but you can do the back. And Hanafis allowed nothing. You can't have your front and you can't have your back while you are answering the call of nature. But the ease is, even if your toilet is facing towards Qibla, you just turn a little bit on this side. Tilt a little bit to the right or to the left, then you're done. If the toilet that you have already been in this direction, what do you do? Obviously, you can't sit completely the other way, like, to the 45 degree, that's difficult. But sitting, but as soon as you sit, just move a little bit to the right or to the left. That will suffice. It shouldn't be directly towards Qibla. That is disrespectful, and Rasul is makruh tahrim and close to haram. Very, very strict ruling on this. So make sure that we do not take any, ease on this. Likewise, children, if you're holding the child, don't let them defecate or urinate in the direction of Qibla. It is also considered that you do not, when you're seeing sun and moon and directing your urination in that direction, is considered dislike as well. And obvious reason, don't urinate in the direction of wind, otherwise you'll be splashing back on yourself. Be sensible there. Because anything that was, you can say, I would take shower. Sharia does not allow you to make yourself unclean because I'm going to get a proper shower afterwards. You only do as much as was necessary. Don't, since I'm planning to do, let me just hold my private part and urinate on myself. A few drops here and there. You can't do that. Okay. Let it just flow wherever it's flowing. Crazy idea. Don't do that. Likewise, it is disliked to urinate or defecate in water. Without you're disadvantaging someone. Animals would come and take some other creation under the shade and hole and path. Shade because other animals would come, other human being would come and take some shade. Hole because if you do that, you may be bitten back by a snake, someone who knows who's hiding inside that hole. Don't do that. Or on the path, disadvantaging people, inconveniencing other people. Under the fruit tree, the fruit would go and drop. Even if it's not a shady tree, it would just be on the urine. Where your urine is smelling, no one would be able to benefit from that fruit. So be sensible. Look after everyone, every creation around you. Just don't be selfish about yourself. And don't do standing because it is against the adab and sunnah of Rasulullah. However, if there was a need, you can do that. If there was an excuse, as Rasulullah was urinated standing, because he was given this advice by the doctors of the time that would help the back pain.
Public toilets?
Not at all.
It's okay to stand if
No. Well, if the public,
they're full and you said
if there was no way that you can urinate, but there's only standing, bidets or whatever different urinals are there, you can use it. Yeah, you can use it as long as you know that there will be no splashes. The problem is, how would you ensure that there's no splashes, especially on the clothes? It's very, very difficult to keep your aura, to keep your satar, and keeping everything together and ensuring that no one is looking at you. Exposing yourself.
You have those walls in between them.
Yes, yes. So as long as you know that you can cater for all of that, then standing will be fine in that space. It will be permissible to use that space, provided you know that you are not directing towards Qibla or your back is not towards Qibla. You know that you are not exposing yourself to others, provided you know that you're not going to get extra splashes. If all of that tick box, then you can do it. Otherwise, you wait, go to the disabled toilet or any other toilet, normal toilet. Wearing something that has name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam or any divine thing, any, honorable thing, ayat of Quran. Don't wear that, exposing it. If you have it, just put it inside. Hide it inside the clothes or take it out, keep it. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would remove his ring that has Muhammad Rasulullah as a stamp. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He would take it out before going to lavatory. Imam Tibi rahmatullah alayhi commenting on that, he said, in this there's a proof that it is wajib upon the one performing istinja to remove anything with the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Obviously, this is, you having some name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that ring and then you're using it for cleaning yourself. And that's so crazy even to think of.
Mobiles and wallet, sometimes.
Keep it inside. Inside, in a sense, there's no exposure. It's not seen outward. Or screen is off. Leaving the lavatory with the left foot and then reciting this dua, Alhamdulillah, Ghufranak, Alhamdulillah, alladhi adhaba anna al-adha, wa afani, the O Lord, forgive you, I seek your forgiveness, Ghufranak, and praise be to Allah who rid me of the filth and gave me health. And that's it. Any question on that? Alhamdulillah.
If you've done tayammum and if you've fallen into a well, what is that?
If you've done tayammum, then you're already pure. If you've done tayammum, obviously you have done tayammum for a valid reason. If the tayammum was done for a valid reason, then your prayer is, then you are pure. Tayammum makes you as pure. But if you have water close to, so you've done tayammum from your home, and now you identified that well, and you accidentally fell in it, you're pure anyway. But if the well was there and you did tayammum, you're not supposed to do tayammum.
People who are getting operated during that time, sometimes it's dependent on other people
urinate and other things, yeah. In that